Hello, Star Wars fans. Since most of you have already put out your 2 cents on The Last Jedi movie, I figured I might as well join the club. Because I didn't like this movie either. I think I could have probably forgiven a lot of mistakes that they made if they had made the Luke Skywalker character a lot better. But unfortunately, he comes off as almost like a multiverse type of Luke Skywalker. Not the one that we saw redeem his father. This one actually killed his father. He still escaped from the Death Star. He still didn't join up with the Emperor. But that's the only thing that really changed. And, you know, I think that would be the only way I could watch this trilogy once it becomes a trilogy, if I ever decide to watch these movies ever again. That's the only way I could watch it and enjoy myself. To think about it as these characters are not the same ones we remember, not because time has passed, but because it's a different universe. You know, same timeline, it's just a different multiverse. That's the only thing that's different. And I don't want to have to flip that kind of mental switch in my head. I would have rather for them to have told us this up front instead of having to kind of think it up on my own. They're also running into an issue, and they're trying to push this thing where, you know, women can be strong, independent characters, but instead of them making women strong, independent characters, but you have strong men characters as well, they have to degrade the men to raise the women up on a pedestal. And I don't like that. That's not equality. You don't bring one down to raise the other one up. That almost sounds like an insult to women, that you can't raise women as strong, independent women until you lower the men down. That's an insult on both sides, and I don't think people look at it like that. So women can never get ahead unless you browbeat men into submission. That doesn't make any sense, but I digress. People take it how you want to take it, but that's the way I see it. They're also pushing to get away from the Skywalker name, which I don't have a problem with, but I have a problem with what they're doing, which is they have it in their heads, and I don't know who they could be. It could be Kathleen Kennedy all by herself. It could be Lucasfilm. But they believe that you cannot be force sensitive unless you are a Skywalker. Well, Snoke, in their own movies, disproves this. So I don't know why they have to keep reiterating the point that you don't have to be a Skywalker to be force sensitive. Rey is not a Skywalker. The little boy, he reaches out his hand and the broom flies to it at the end. He's not a Skywalker. You don't have to say that. Star Wars fans already know this. And that's something else. It reminds me of some video games, you know, how they dumb it down just a little bit so it's more accessible to everyone. And they're doing this to the Star Wars movies. They're opening this up with diversity and other things that it was already fun. That's what people want. They want a good story. They want a good time at the theaters. They don't want a bunch of political garbage that has to do with modern day politics, you know, poking the eye out at Trump or something else. We want to be able to detach ourselves for a little while from all the news of today. Enjoy a good story. But unfortunately, they're not doing that. And believe me, the SJWs that are at Lucasfilm, there's also ones at Disney. So I don't put anything past Disney either to be pushing this agenda. But, you know, that's the reason why Star Wars is failing. It seems like the people only know about the aesthetics of Star Wars, and they don't know about what made the original trilogy so great. Even though it had a predominantly white cast, it was still great movies. Even black people liked the movies. Even Asian people liked the movies, and there weren't many blacks or Asians in the movie. But they still liked it because it was good stories. It was good characters. And they don't know how to make that anymore. You can put anybody in the film now, and it still doesn't come off that great. As a matter of fact, the main characters, Rey, Finn, and Poe, haven't won me over in 2 films. Not at all. The original cast, they won me over as their characters were introduced in episode 4. And that just means to me that they don't have good characters. And it seems like they're like mix-mashed, you know, they're kind of like piecemealed characters from the original trilogy. A little bit of Wedge, a little bit of Lando, a little bit of Luke, a little bit of Han and Finn and Poe kind of thing. That's what they're doing. So they're not their own unique characters. They're kind of, you know, like 10% of a character. So if they kill off Rey, Finn, and Poe within, like say, the first 10 minutes of episode 9, which I don't even care to see, I won't shed a tear. It'd be like, well, at least we'll have new characters. Maybe they'll do better the next time. Speaking of that, You know, I wanted to like Daisy's character, Rey. She's an attractive woman. This is the scene that almost stole it for me. When she's smiling at Han, I was like, oh my God. But then I started to see that she was a Mary Sue. Whether that sounds like a sexist statement or not, doesn't matter. It's true, she doesn't have to try. And there is a problem with this because, you know, Disney or Lucasfilm, they want to change up the way the Force works. And this is something that I haven't heard any other Star Wars fans say. I'm actually surprised nobody's brought it up. But the Force doesn't balance itself out in real time. That's the Matrix. And I think they're copying 2 other movies as well. And Star Wars used to be trend-setting. And as Jeremy John said, it was at the tip of the spear. Movies made references to Star Wars. You know, the movie Cull with Kevin Sorbo. It had a line in there, Tia Carrere says it. She says, I'm altering the deal. Pray I do not alter it any further. That's Darth Vader to Lando. So movies did this. Now Star Wars is copying other movies. So I'll tell you how it's copying the Matrix with the way the Force works now. And it didn't work this way in the Old Republic, the prequels, or the original trilogy. But now after 40 years, after Return of the Jedi, now the Force decides, okay, I think I'm going to change up the way I work from now on. Can it do that? Is it alive? Or is that just on the whim of people at Lucasfilm? I mean, I don't know. So if you've watched the Matrix trilogy movies, you know that as Neo's powers rose in and out of the Matrix, so did Agent Smith's to balance that. The Force never, ever worked like this. But now as Kylo Ren's powers increase, Rey's increases just because you have to have balance. It doesn't work that fast. It's not that way at all. Also, they're stealing from the One with Jet Li. The evil Jet Li is killing off all of his doppelgangers. Well, as he does, he's gaining more strength, endurance, and speed. He's becoming like a god or supervillain. This is also what they're doing with Star Wars. If you have 1,000 Jedi on one side and 2 Sith, their power level should be through the roof because it has to match the 1,000 Jedi. It doesn't work this way. You can have 1,000 Jedi that are super strong and 2 wimpy Sith Lords. It's not in balance. It won't be in balance. It's always in flux. The only way to bring it in balance is to wipe out the other side. That is the only way. And if you want to go back and watch the prequels, you can prove this for yourselves. If you have 1,000 Jedi and you only had 2 Sith, or at least 2 known Sith in the film, as they were killing off the Jedi, that is Vader and Emperor, well, their power levels should have started to decrease. It didn't. It stayed the same. It was constant. You should have seen the Emperor kind of stagnate and go, oh, wait a minute, I'm getting weaker. But they never got weaker. They stayed the same. Also, there's another movie that they're copying, Tron, which is a Disney franchise, but transferring matter from one location to another. They do it in the old Tron movie and the new one, or the more recent one. And the laser beam hits Flynn or his son, it transfers matter into the video game or computer world. Well, Luke transfers the dice through the Force. Well, why can't he transfer himself? Is there a law that says you can't do it that way? So now I want to talk about the infamous Princess Leia or General Leia flying through space, Space Mary Poppins. If she's that powerful in the Force, because that is not a Padawan or an apprentice skill level. She has been heavily trained. That is an advanced Jedi Knight or even Jedi Master. I can see Yoda doing that. I can see the Emperor, maybe Anakin or Vader, definitely Vader, and maybe Obi-Wan doing that, maybe Qui-Gon. But I cannot see General Leia doing that. It's just, you know, as much as I wanted to see her use Force powers and maybe have a lightsaber hilt hidden up her sleeve, just like the Emperor, I wanted to see her in action. I didn't want to see her just get blown out of a ship and then, oh really, she's going to fly through space? And then why does she even need Luke? If she's that powerful, why couldn't she force Skype call Luke? Why couldn't she just sit and meditate and think about where Luke is, sense him, even if he's cut himself off from the Force, he can't really hide from her because they're brother and sister. They're not half brother and sister, they're not just good friends, they are bloodline kin. Why isn't she able to track him? That would defeat the purpose of the whole map. Why use the map? We don't have that part of the map. No matter. She meditates. I know where he is. Let's go find him. You know? Or why couldn't she just deal with Snoke on her own? Why couldn't she use Force powers to get Kylo Ren back or get Ben Solo back? Why? I mean, none of it makes any sense. But honestly, I have lost a lot of enthusiasm for these films. And that's sad because I've been a fan of Star Wars ever since I was 4 years old. And to see these movies go down that fast, it's just amazing. It's almost like, you know, I never thought that it couldn't fail, but at the same time, it's just sad to see people take this property or this franchise and just run it into the dirt because they don't know what they're doing. And as a matter of fact, 2017 was kind of a learning experience for me because I watched 3 franchises now have question marks over their head. Mass Effect in early 2017, Mass Effect Andromeda came out, and it had poor reviews. Then later in the year, Visceral Games goes under, and the fate of Dead Space is questionable. And then at the end of the year, you get to see what happens with The Last Jedi. Well, the only thing I can say, the only positive advice or any advice I could give is just stay away from franchises. Don't get too attached to them because somebody can come along and throw a monkey wrench and screw it all up. It happens all the time. It just, you know, you're lucky if you get a franchise that you actually like everything that's in there or whatever. And unfortunately, we didn't get the loop that we were looking for. We didn't get the story we were looking for. I don't really have much use for these new characters. They haven't won me over. Rey had a good shot at it. I thought I could have liked Finn, but he got reduced in even 8 to Rose. It's all over the place, man. And I just don't like the way they're telling these stories. As a matter of fact, I don't care about the Han Solo film, Boba Fett film, Obi-Wan Kenobi film, or even a Lando Calrissian film. Because they've already proven that they cannot walk that fine line. If they're going to do the in-between films, you have to walk a fine line. You cannot deviate too much because you'll be ruining the continuity of the story. And they've already done that with Rogue One. I don't think that Grand Moff Tarkin should have gotten that kind of treatment and got turned into a sniveling politician who just said, hey, buddy, remember your Death Star? I'm going to take that, all right? That's not Grand Moff Tarkin. He's more of a mastermind. He may not be a genius, but he's a mastermind. He could have taken over after the Emperor and run the Empire pretty successfully, in my opinion. But unfortunately, he goes out instead of the Emperor. And then you have the infamous lightsaber scene at the end of the movie when Vader ignites his lightsaber and you're saying, oh man, he's going to kill those rebel soldiers. This is the infamous scene, you know. Look at the lightsaber tricks that he does. The twirling he does with the lightsaber. That's Anakin's old fighting style. Now, I know Anakin and Vader are the same person, so I'm not that stupid. But the thing is, when you go from Rogue One and then you immediately watch Episode 4 right after that to see this fight scene, where's all the fancy footwork? Where's all the flamboyant sword maneuvers? Where? Not there. It doesn't exist. Why? Why did they put that flying, you know, him bouncing all them lasers back and all that stuff? He just should have just used the Force on all of them. Instead of all that fancy footwork, because it doesn't make any sense with the Obi-Wan Kenobi fight sequence later. When you see him and old man Obi-Wan fight each other, they're just rubbing their swords together. And I know that doesn't sound right, but it's not what you think. Anyway, that's my thoughts on it, and I'm out. Peace.